Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 17 on Draftkings, and I have a list of our top running backs for this slate. Now, there's a lot of them, and I'm not going to be able to even get to all of the best running backs on this slate because it's a 14-game slate. There's a lot of places that look really, really tasty. I have, of our 5-box running backs, this is usually what we highlight on this video. The 5 boxes being, are they playing at home? Are they favored? Do they have an expectation of 20 or more touches? Are they involved in the passing game? And do they get those very, very valuable and high leverage inside the 5 touches? Some people call them goal line touches. Inside the 5 is where we go to. Once they check off all 5 of those boxes, it is back tested to show that is each one of those different stats tends to lead to players that are performing over their projected expectation. And if you link all 5 of them, it's extremely powerful on a week in, week out basis for the past 5 or 10 years. So that is where we center our focus around, because not all of them, typically 5-box running backs end up being chalk, but when there's a lot of them like this, not all of them are going to be the chalk, and it can identify some players that are really good plays at a lower percentage for tournaments for you. And we go over some other players that are just really good running back plays that don't necessarily check off all 5 boxes. So thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, leave me a reply down below with a running back that you like on this slate, and let's go.
He's a legend.
2 really quick things. One, I have started a brand new fantasy football channel. Our DFS stuff will always live on the main channel, the one that you're watching right now. But we just started Al Smizzle Fantasy Football. There will be a link in the pinned comment down below with the listener league link. smizzle.tv/FF fantasy football. See, very easy to remember. smizzle.tv/FF. Go drop a subscribe on this. There's absolutely no content on it yet, but there will be starting right when the playoff starts for NFL this year and the entirety of the offseason. All of my offseason fantasy football season-long videos are going to be on that YouTube channel. So please, if you enjoy the content that I put out for DFS season, go drop a link or go drop a subscribe and ring the notifications bell on that second channel. And the Smiz Gang Listener League, $10 entry fee, 5 max, 3,250 people. Absolutely no rake. The best tournament that there is on DraftKings, smizzle.tv/league. The links for both of those things are down below in the pinned comment. All you have to do is go to the pinned comment in like the comment section. It'll be the one right on top. You can find both links. Go join that Smiz Gang Listener League and fill it up. The number 1 running back on the slate that we're going to lead off with is Jonathan Taylor, at least in terms of like ceiling expectation, maybe not on a points per dollar expectation. I'm sure somebody is going to be priced lower and have a little bit more of a points per dollar expectation based on the fact that they are, probably going to project at like 3x, where like Jonathan Taylor projecting at 27 points is less likely, but like getting 25 to 35 points out of your running back on almost an every week basis, with a great possibility of 30 plus DraftKings points, with the amount of volume that he gets. He has not seen much volume in the passing game the last 3 weeks, something that I would love to see bounce, but unrivaled when it comes to inside the 5 carries right now, unrivaled with 25 plus touch games, and just a super stud. Basically, he's got all the volume in the world. There are 3 backs in the league that have the big splash ability that Jonathan Taylor has. It's Taylor, Henry, and Nick Chubb, and the other 2 are not on this slate, which means that we get the volume and the floor, the upside of the touchdowns, and the possibility for one of those big splash plays, a 50 plus yard, 40 plus yard run for a touchdown that really separates him from every 9K, but there's enough value on the slate to go get him if you want him. Alvin KAMARA. Saints are favored by 7. They're not going to look as bad as they looked on Monday night. He gets enough usage in the passing game that like you have to pay attention. It's not where we want it. It's not that 7, 8 to 12 targets a game that we would hope. They've really pared down this offense. They have to play slow. They're a grinded out and defensive team, but Alvin KAMARA is a 5-box running back this week. I assume that he is going to get 20 touches in this game against Carolina. They are at home. They are favored. He does get the inside the 5 looks. And we'll see if he pays off. 7,900 is going to be one of the more, I believe, low percentage players in tournaments. He's not going to carry a lot of traffic with him because of all the other plays on this slate at running back. Austin Ekeler at 82 coming back from COVID. We saw a few times this year where players don't reach their full snap potential in the first week back after getting COVID. It's a respiratory disease, and maybe they don't have their lungs right. So we're going to monitor this situation as the week goes on. Assuming that he would go back to his full workload, that puts him in another great spot here, just like Justin Jackson, who was massively underpriced and owned by everybody last week on their rosters because, like, yeah, it kind of had to. He was free. Draftkings kind of mispriced him in the case that EKELER was out. I would love to see if they would just, based on the current state of COVID tests and players that get inactivated and running backs being as replaceable as they are, at least in terms of volume and output, I would love to see the backups priced at least 75 or 80% of where the starter is priced. So if EKELER is like 50 or 8,200, then Jackson, who is his direct backup, needs to be like 6,800, much like Dalvin Cook last week to his backup, where it was like, you know, Madison was 6,800. Like, that's the pricing that I think we need to have to protect ourselves from guys turning into massive chalk. But Austin Ekeler against Denver, a tough spot with the Denver defense being what it is, but the Chargers have a team total of 25 points. They are favored by 5.5. He is involved in the passing game and is a career high in terms of inside the 5 carries. 8,200 should be a bit contrarian. Eli Mitchell, I believe, will be back this week and is 6,000. Now, here's your instructions. Always stay nimble with these sorts of things, especially right now with the state of the league and health and safety restrictions, keeping players out of action. And obviously, we're in week 17, so there's a ton of injuries involved. Great matchup against Houston. 49ers have a team total of 28.5, favored by 12.5. Anytime that their lead back is the lead back, whether it's Eli Mitchell, whether it's Jeff Wilson, no matter who it is, that lead back is getting like 85% of the snaps, getting a ton of carries, getting involved in the passing game, and has a very high touchdown expectation as they make lots of trips inside the 10-yard line. Yes, you will lose some carries to Deebo Samuel, but you're not losing enough to make it something that you want to avoid, especially not at 6,000. Now, here's the key. If Eli Mitchell does not make it back, he was out for the Thursday night game. I assume that he is going to be back for this one. If Eli Mitchell is out, don't play him. Whoever is named the starter for San Francisco at running back, play them. So if it is Eli Mitchell, here's your if-then statement. If Eli Mitchell is the starting running back for the San Francisco 49ers in week 17, play Eli Mitchell. If he is not, and Jeff Wilson is, then play Jeff Wilson. Just play the guy who is the starting running back for San Francisco this week. Ezekiel Elliott is 7,100. We have seen a little bit of a decreased usage for him based on the knee injury that's been lingering for him as the season went on. They throttled Washington last week, so like they didn't need to ride him in the second half of this game. It was not particularly close, but against the Giants, still kind of hobbled by that knee the week before in a much closer game. Still got 19 touches, got a touchdown, scored 2 last week on very minimal usage, 10 touches in that last game. They're 5-point favorites at home against the Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals' defense versus position against running backs has looked good on paper, but like when you dig a little bit deeper, it's because they just haven't allowed a lot of touchdowns to the position, something that Ezekiel Elliott has been very good at over the years, considering how many, just the volume of inside the 5 carries he gets and how talented this Dallas Cowboys offense is. And therefore, if he is going to project to get me between 17 and 22 touches in this game, with some of them coming through the air and the amount of inside, just the sheer volume of inside the 5 touches, when you consider his salary and how many people are not going to want to play him, whether it's because of the DVP, whether it's because they believe that he's hurt and, you know, he is dealing with an injury. But as long as it's not structural, they have some fantastic drugs at the NFL level that make these guys not feel pain for the 4-hour time span that they have to perform athletically. You have Ezekiel Elliott in a great spot. Now, if Ezekiel Elliott sits out this game, Tony Pollard's going to be all the rage. Go for it. David Montgomery is going to be somebody that is going to end up on a lot of rosters. He is going to project extremely well. We saw him run in last season, and it looked a lot like this, where he won everybody their fantasy league if you spent a lot of money on him or draft equity on him in your drafts. 9 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets, 9 targets. This offense is not great, but guess what? The New York Giants defense is even worse. And, you know, Nagy's going to establish it. He's going to get the ball to David Montgomery a lot. So you can count on a ton of volume. Good touchdown upside, one of the best tackle breakers and tackle evaders in the league against a defense that struggles at, you know, making tackles. So David Montgomery at 6,500 seems entirely too cheap. Rashad Penny has at least passed the eye test. He's clearly passing the volume test. He's one of these guys who was close. Doesn't necessarily project for 20 plus touches, but he's been so damn deficient and looks like the guy that we thought he was going to be when they spent that draft equity and that draft capital to go get him, even though it had been Chris Carson those last few years. Now with nobody in his way at 6,100, Rashad Penny squaring off against the Detroit Lions looks like another great spot for him to have a good chance to 3x this salary, and depending on whether or not he can wander into the end zone once or twice, has a chance to 4x or more on his salary at 6,100 at home against Detroit in what could be a messy weather environment, favored by 6.5, team total of 24.5. As I said, there's a lot on this video. There's a lot of running backs on this slate. 6,600 for Damien Harris. We're going to have to monitor which of the running backs are around, whether Bolden's going to be active, whether or not Ramondre Stevenson's going to be active. The more running backs that there are, the more toys Bill Belichick has to play with, the less likely he's going to play with your favorite toy. So with one of them out, Damien Harris becomes a stud, as we saw with Ramondre last week. Without that there, you're going to have to rely on a really long touchdown for him to get there. So like, I'm going to proceed with caution with Damien Harris, as well as long as it pertains to which running backs are available. The more running backs that are available, then I'm going to probably shy away from Damien Harris, or at least have less of him. The less running backs that are available, I am probably going to flock more on to Damien Harris at his price, I don't think he's going to be really highly played. DraftKings highly reliant on targets and usage in the passing game. He does not have that. They don't utilize him in that way. Like, everybody has their job. We've heard the running backs on New England in past years say this, that like a few years ago, 2015, Dion Lewis was the pass catching back. LeGarrette Blount was the pounder, right? He was the running back, led the league in touchdowns. Dion Lewis was the guy who came in and played like that James White role. And he got a ton of usage and got some carries and was very valuable on DraftKings and in best ball leagues. And then a couple of years later, Lewis was not the pass catching guy. That was James White that year. And they asked him, how come you're not getting more involved in the passing game? He goes, it's not my job, man. The do your job narrative kind of comes through when it comes to New England. It is not Damien Harris's job to catch the football. So for him to get there, he has to get you that 100-yard bonus. He has to do it with touchdowns. They are massive favorites in this game. I'm trying to find the total here. The Patriots are 15.5 point favorites with a team total of 28.5 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Damien Harris in play, but there's a possibility of a game like this where he runs for like maybe 75 yards, doesn't score a touchdown, but you still have the possibility of a ceiling like this, more likely if there are running backs out. A couple of running backs who do not fill all 5 boxes. Devin Singletary, I don't expect him to top 20 plus touches, but he's in a really good spot and is only 5,400. Atlanta very bad against opposing running backs. I would like Singletary a lot more and would think that he would have an expectation of 20 plus if Zach Moss is out this week. He played last week. That held his touches down against New England. In the game that he was out, that Moss was out, he had 22 touches, got 1 pass in that game. They won by a ton. He got the goal line looks. He's looked very good this year. Great in the open field. They're utilizing him a lot more frequently in the passing game, although it is sporadic, whether you can see his target totals bouncing 6, 1, 7, 0, 1, 4, 1, 8. Like, it's all over the place. There's a possibility he could have like 1 or 2 targets. We also have that hope that he could get you like 6, 7, or 8 targets in this game. And the Bills clearly favored against Atlanta. In this one, I'm trying to find the team total on the ridiculously massive slate. 14.5 point favorites, 29.5 points is their expected team total in this one. Playing at home, does not have an expectation of 20 touches, but I really like Devin Singletary this week, and I like him a lot more if Moss is a healthy scratch once again. And we're going to square it off with Ronald Jones. There is danger a little bit with Ronald Jones in the sense that he only played 55% of the snaps last week, but some of that can be attributed to the fact that they throttled Carolina 32-6. Not that they shouldn't throttle the Jets here. The Jets have been historically bad against opposing running backs for fantasy, like 30% more points per game allowed to opposing running backs than the second most team. And then there's like a bunch, like it's a whole tier 2 through 10 that are all very similar. But like the Jets are really bad against opposing running backs. And Ronald Jones, massive big play upside, way more so than Leonard Fournette, but not going to have as much of a floor as Fournette based on the fact that he is not going to be utilized as much in the passing game. If Ronald Jones gets 60 to 70% of the snaps against the Jets, he should clearly smash his 6,300 salary. He's going to be very popular, but I do believe he comes with a little more danger than people are going to be willing to let on. So if you can stomach that, he does have 25 plus point upside because of the touchdown upside that comes along with being a part of this Buccaneers Tom Brady offense. Thank you guys for watching. It was a long list of running backs this week. So drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Go to smizzle.tv/FF and go subscribe to the second channel so that when the playoffs start and I start putting out 2022 fantasy football videos, you are there for all of it. Thank you all for being here. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.